I always like to say I live in like a healthy state of delusion. Even if I don't know how to do something, surely I'll figure it out. So I've actually been living in it the whole time that I've had it, including while I was building it. But there is something really nice when you finally get a bed and you put in a mattress and you're like, this is luxury. And you look around and everything is like in a complete state of disarray, but you're like, this is it. This is peak luxury. I wanted to have some fun elements on the outside without it being like too much. That's the line that I like to dance on, is like, is this too much or is it just enough? I think it's quite cute. When you're living in a small rig, you do end up utilizing every ounce of space that you have. Another feature about this bus that I really love is these side doors where the wheelchair lift used to be. I actually watched the sunrise this morning and I was like, wow, I really am living the dream, and it felt so good. Hi, I am born with too much fire. These are my dogs, Jasper and Jack Jack, and this is our home. This is my shuttle bus. She is a 1997 Ford E350 with a 7.3 Power Stroke. She's about 21 feet in length, and with my motorcycle carrier, she's about 24 feet. Let's go for a little walk and look at some details. So when you first come in, I have storage over top. This is where I keep like all of my jackets. It's a little bit of a hazard opening it, but I have like my shower stuff, my backpacks, yoga mat, towels, just a little bit of everything. It is a lot of space, and I really took full advantage of that. Down on my step, I wanted to do a little something decorative, and so I painted the little stairway to heaven because I feel like the bus gives very much like 70s shag and wagon vibes, so I wanted to kind of pull that in. And it's just a little funny thing here. So this is what I call my boneyard. It's just kind of bones and stuff that I've collected along the way. This is my favorite recent find, is a little pufferfish. I named him Lucky because I feel lucky that I made it down here. Little cheesy, sure, but that lives on my dash. And I just collect a bunch of bones from places, and it just feels like a nice little place to have my creepy little graveyard. I actually, when I was in my van, had some of these, and this guy came up, he's like, it's kind of creepy. And I was like, yeah. So I always say, like, this is what keeps people out of my rigs. That and my dog sitting on my front seat. But I don't know, I just like wanted to keep the vibe of the rest of the bus. I wanted to carry that into the dash as well. And I think I've done that with like the disco ball ornaments. I made like a little pom-pom garland, and it feels like a cozy little home when I'm up here too, because I do spend so much of my time up here. So right behind my driver's seat, I have my closet and my fridge. This is where I keep most of my clothes. This is where I access kind of my everyday toiletries. I have a mirror. This is where I get ready. And I try to keep everything super tidy in here. Very important in a small living space, anywhere honestly, but especially in a small living space. And then I have this little board. It's got some photos that friends have taken, some little things that I've made. And it's just kind of my little place to look and remember all the places that I've been. And down here I have my fridge. It is an isotherm. It's got super large fridge as well as a freezer compartment. The one not so great thing about this is that the freezer clips always break. So isotherm, if you're watching this, please redesign that. I can fit like, I don't know, probably about a week and a half of groceries in here, but it does have a produce drawer down here. I feel like enough room. I don't really eat, this looks crazy. I tried making a peanut butter banana ice cream last night, but that's not normally in there. But just like some frozen fruits and veggies and ice. I like to make iced coffee, so that is an important thing for me. And I feel like this really does have as much room as I need for living in this full time. I had a slightly smaller one in my van, and so this was a little bit of an upgrade despite its quirks, we'll call them. It's also a little bit dirty. I did not think to clean in here before you came, but that's all right. This is real stuff, baby. Real stuff. I've been doing this for almost 6 years. I was in a van and then my engine started to go and I was like, all right, well, I can put $15,000 into a new engine, or I feel like I was starting to outgrow that. So I decided to buy a bus and to start over. And I was like, well, I should probably start working if I'm gonna build this. And I decided to reach out to a van company, actually. And it all kind of aligned. I was able to utilize their shop for my entire build, which was incredible. So I've actually been living in it the whole time that I've had it, including while I was building it. Every day after work, I would say, okay, I'm gonna put together this one cabinet, or I'm gonna install my water pump. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I was doing like 12 to 16 hour days, just like getting after it. It was funny, one of my coworkers was like, "You're so motivated." And I was like, "Yeah, Tim, I'm cold. I need to put a heater in. It's like very chilly. I'm going back to a cold plywood floor." So it definitely does serve as motivation to kind of get things done. You know, every once in a while I'd be like, "Oh, it's been a few months. Like, come in and check out the progress." And they're like, "Wow, I love what you've done with the place." So that was really a sweet part of the process. But there is something really nice when you finally get a bed and you put in a mattress and you're like, "This is luxury." And you look around and everything is like in a complete state of disarray, but you're like, "This is it. This is peak luxury." It took me a year to build this. I am a homebody. I love like nesting. I love being in my space. I always joke around like my favorite place to be is home. And so I wanted a space that was large enough that I felt like I wasn't just crammed into a box and just like feeling stir crazy on a rainy day. Like I love to be in my home. Like I cannot emphasize that enough. I love being home. And then we'll keep moving backwards into the living room. This is where I like to hang out. It's also where I eat my meals. I have a Lagoon table mount, and it's just nice to have somewhere to sit and eat. I did not have this in my van, and it's the little things that make you feel like a real person again, and being able to just like sit at a table instead of on your floor is just like one of the conveniences of living in a typical house that I like to bring back into my living space. So shout out to that. This couch is long enough that I've had people who are about 6 foot sleep on this. Their feet just kind of go to my head, but it works. So I can sleep 3 people in here relatively comfortably. And sometimes it's just nice to have an extra space. And down under here is my freshwater tank. I have 25 gallons and it sits on top of my wheel well. And then down underneath here is storage for most of my crafts and some sweaters. And then above it, I just kind of have a shelf with my books. This is all of my bulk food and my braids that I just cut my hair this week, and I'm trying to say yes to more things, especially the things that I'm nervous about. So this is kind of like a visual reminder of that. The thing that I love about this space too is collecting things that have a story, whether it's from people that I know or from thrift stores or antique stores. This little guy is a set of antlers that my dad always used to have on his rearview mirror. And so when I was back east this year, I took that with me, and I think it's like my little thing of protection, I guess. Just a bunch of little trinkets. Even though I say I'm not a trinket person, I do like to decorate these little windowsills. It makes it feel super homey. These windows are actually one of my favorite parts. They are the stock windows. I just covered up the majority of them. So they have these little sliders on them. And so I get a really nice breeze in here. And then I have just like a rainbow window film on here for a little bit of privacy. And then when the sun comes in, it's really beautiful. So the wallpaper that I have here, I actually had in my van prior to this, and it was kind of one of the first things that helped me find my style in terms of like interior decorating. And so I wanted to put it in this bus and kind of pay, what is it, homage? Yeah, pay homage to the van. It is a standard wallpaper, so I used an adhesive. You can see it's like starting to come off in these seams a little bit, but it's been like 3.5 years in all conditions. So I'd say considering that, it's holding up pretty well. So this is my sink. It is gold to match everything else in here because we are committed to that. A mistake that a lot of people make is getting a sink that is too small. This fits my largest pan. I would say if you're looking for a sink, find your favorite large pan, put it in there, see if it fits, because you're like, oh, it's fine. And then you're the person washing the dishes and it's not fine anymore. So get a sink that fits your dishes. My water, I have 25 gallons. It'll last me about like a week and a half if I'm not paying attention to it. I can make it last about 2 weeks. And then a lot of counter space. I do like to cook. I always make the joke that like there's 2 things I won't be in this, and it is tired or hungry. Down under here is my composting toilet. I have a nature's head and a squeaky hinge. But I have a nature's head. I love this. I do a lot of city living, and so that's like super important to me that I always have access to a bathroom. Dumping the pee jug is the worst part. Anybody who lives in a rig will tell you that. So I did install a pee funnel recently. So many people had mentioned it and they're like, do you have a pee funnel? I'm like, that's absurd. No, it's not. It's actually so good. So it is quite literally just a funnel attached to a hose, and you stand over it and you spray it. I have my little isopropyl alcohol, and you spray that and you get on your way. And then this is my stove and oven. It is a Camp Chef. It's kind of like their outdoor oven. A lot of people have it. The stovetop is great. The oven is fine. I don't do a lot of baking, but it doesn't get that hot. So if I were a big baker, maybe I would choose something different. but I'm not. This little contraption I made, it's just a piano hinge that I used a strong adhesive, and I glued it here. And this just kind of helps redirect some of the heat while I'm cooking. And it's just on a rubber band. It's nothing fancy. It just helps redirect some of the heat while I'm cooking, because I found that my fruits were starting to go bad a lot quicker. So this just kind of helps push it up and out. Open these windows and I get some nice ventilation. So we love those little slider windows. They're great. I did put these gas struts on all of my cabinets, but when I'm driving on really bumpy roads, these two up front will open. So I took them down, but typically all of them kind of hold themselves up, which is really nice when you're cooking and trying to like grab things. For tall people, you can use your head, but not me. So the cabinets, I used a lot of reclaimed, or I guess recycled materials. It was scrap material. I used to work for a company that built out like luxury Sprinter vans. Everything was cut on a CNC. And so all of the materials that they couldn't use got to go in a scrap pile. So I try to use a lot of those. So the cabinet is actually made up in 4 parts. I have kind of my sink part, my toilet compartment, my drawers, and then the oven. So that was all mounted, and then I put it together as one piece. I bought the push to open drawer slides thinking that those would work to keep these closed, and they did not. So I just used, they're actually mirror clips. And so I use these just to kind of hold things closed, and they do snap every once in a while, and they do damage my cabinets, but it's what I think works best. And then down here, this cabinet is above my wheel well, so it does go all the way back. And it actually it has a lot of space that I didn't think I was going to utilize, but when you're living in a small rig, you do end up utilizing every ounce of space that you have. So the bus itself cost me $6,000. I did not keep track of the cost of the build itself, and that was mostly for my sanity. I knew I was keeping cost in mind while buying things, but I also wanted to make sure that if I was going to be living in this long term, that it's exactly what I wanted. If I had to make like a rough estimate, it was probably around, I don't know, $10,000 to $15,000. I do keep track of all of my costs. Last year, I spent $23,000 and like 168 or something like that. Obviously that includes like vet bills, it includes like emergency medical things, and that includes gas. I get about like 7 or 8 miles to the gallon, and that was definitely a compromise with this. We are currently in Baja right now, and this was kind of on my bucket list of things that I wanted to do. So I was like, okay, it's year 5. You know, if I'm ever gonna do it, it's the time. And what I really am taking away from this journey is just like navigating new things, whether it be building or troubleshooting or navigating, you know, difficult roads, just like building that confidence and trust within yourself that you are able to navigate anything that comes your way. So in the back here, this is my bedroom. But before we get there, down underneath is a little extra storage spot. Currently right now I have a bunch of oat milk. But this is also my shoe storage. I have a little bit of extra clothing storage that I smush back in there. So this storage spot goes, I don't know, it's probably like 1.5 feet deep, and it's about as wide as this. And I just wanted something that I could access from the front without having to go around to the side to get underneath. So this is my bed. It is a full-size bed. It's just me and my 2 dogs, so it's enough space. When I do have close friends visiting, it does get a little bit snug. So somebody is usually like plastered up against that wall, but I'm comfortable, which is like, you know, I love them, but this is my house. Anyway, on the back wall is just all things that I have thrifted. The do not disturb sign is actually quite funny. I was helping a friend like renovate an old trailer from the 70s, and that was in one of the drawers. And I was like, you know what? I don't need payment, but unless you're gonna do something with that, I'm gonna need that because I think it's so funny. And then I have my guitar. I'm trying to learn guitar. I keep my hats here. I make these little weavings on like a small, it's like a kid-sized loom, but it's perfect for the bus. I wanted to have a little bit of a separation between the space. And sometimes that isn't creating an actual divider, it's more of just like a visual divider. And so that's kind of how I frame this out. And then I do have a diesel heater that is mounted directly under here, and it comes out right there. And then underneath the rest of the bed is all of my storage. Under here I have 2 bins of tools and crafts and outdoor stuff. My paddle board goes under there, my laundry bag, and then just like some miscellaneous stuff. And I access that through the double doors. That is another feature about this bus that I really love, is these side doors where the wheelchair lift used to be. I actually watched the sunrise this morning and I was like, wow, I really am living the dream, and it felt so good. Similarly with the back wall, there is a rear door, but I framed this so that this wall was one seamless thing. And then when I open the door from underneath, it's still open, so I can access everything from the back. So underneath here is my electrical. I have 200 amp hours of lithium battery. I have a 1500 watt, what are those things called? Inverter, yes. And then I have 300 watts of solar and a 40 amp DC to DC charger. Much like anybody else, I love my natural light. This is where my emergency hatch used to be. The dogs actually love it in the winter time. It's really nice because it'll come in and like warm the bus up, and it's just so good, and they'll lay in the sunshine and take their naps. But it is so nice to have just extra light. Having most of the windows covered up in here, this is where I get most of my light. And when I have my doors open, obviously that as well. But when I'm parked in cities, I am kind of dependent on that to get most of my natural light. And then when it's super sunny, I take just like a piece of Reflectix and I pop it up there. Because it does turn into a greenhouse on a hotter day. So I try to kind of mitigate that. But I love it. It does not open. People ask me all the time, like, you could have gotten one that opened. Sure. I just wanted it for light. I can open my doors, and it was just like a much cheaper alternative than getting those fancy skylights that do open. So it works for me. So at the front, we have probably the most fun of the exterior thing. We've got these bullhorns. This is my second set because the first one, they didn't quite make it, but these are secured really well, so I feel better about those. And then all of the bugs, unfortunately, it's the graveyard from when I'm driving, but it's just kind of how it goes. May they rest in peace. I wanted to have some fun elements on the outside without it being like too much. That's the line that I like to dance on, is like, is this too much or is it just enough? I have a door that I got from a reclaim center. I really wanted something that felt like true with the times. And I wanted something that was a little bit more secure, as the plexiglass doors were not. You could literally like punch through them and get inside. And actually this door, this is the original inside color of it, was this bright yellow. And this is a left out swing. The door is actually designed to be a right in swing. And so I just flipped the hinges and then I switched all of these things around because we can do anything. And so it actually works quite well. So for the paint job, when I got this, it was just like super dingy white, and it actually had red and blue vinyl stripes. And so you do have to take those off with a heat gun, and it was kind of annoying. And then I sanded the whole thing, and then I primed it with like the super splotchy gray primer paint. And then I finally painted it. I used an oil-based enamel. It is fiberglass. I wanted to make sure that there was something that would stay. And I just rolled it on. I did it all in like a day. Then I did the stripes. I used a laser level and I marked them off with frog tape, and I used a mini roller and same kind of paint, which I feel like really took a little bit of the inside flair to the outside, and really sets it off, I think. I think it's quite cute. I also have a moonshade that I set up. I just put some anchors into the side of the bus. My bus is fiberglass, so I can't use the magnets that come with it. And thankfully it's like the perfect length for this little portion, so I can have all my doors open and a little bit of shade to create a little outdoor space, which is really nice when you are out on the beautiful beaches like we are. And yeah, on the back I have my motorcycle, which I don't ride as much as I would like to. It takes a little bit of time getting it on and off. But yeah, I think I'm gonna take it for a little rip today and let her get some fresh air. This is where my propane goes. I have two small propane tanks that fit into this, and so my propane line just comes down through the floor, and then I have those in here. I do like having two separate tanks because I always keep one full, and that way I'm never running out of propane when I need something. So these are the double doors. This is originally where the wheelchair lift was. Thankfully that was already out when I bought it because I imagine that's a bit of a pain, but I am very grateful to have these doors. I can open them. It's where the dogs like to take their naps in the sunshine. And they are the exact width of my bed, which just happened to work out really well. And so I can close these up. Sorry, buddy. I can close these up and then everything's kind of tidied. So with the doors, I wanted to keep the original locking mechanism, but I didn't want to see it from the inside. And so I kind of offset this with just some like, I don't know, 1x1s in there. So this way it can still lock and it's super secure. I can use my key, but I don't see it from the inside, which was super important. So this is my rear door. I can access the garage from underneath. Honestly, I don't open this that often because my motorcycle is usually up here, but it is nice if I ever needed to, just to have a little bit more access. And then I do have this rope ladder to access my roof. I have a small roof deck. I know a lot of people do fixed ladders, but this one was like a cheaper option. It is a little bit precarious getting up there, but it works for me, and this is my bus, so as far as I'm concerned, that's fine. And then I just have it bolted through my roof deck, so I climb up there from time to time, but much like everybody else with a roof deck, you don't end up going up there as much as you think, but it works for what I need. I always like to say I live in like a healthy state of delusion. People are like the other day when I cut my hair, they're like, you can cut hair? And I was like, I can do anything. It seems like a little like egotistical, but that proves to myself that like, even if I don't know how to do something, surely I'll figure it out. It's a sickness. The first time I built my van, I was like, I'm never doing that again. And then obviously I did that again, and I'm like, I would never do that again. And now I have literally sketches for a whole nother rig. So we'll see how long I do it. I always say like, I will continue doing things for as long as they feel good. So I'm still loving this, and maybe one day I'll park this on some land and probably continue living in it, because I do love small intentional living and I love what I've created.
If you like this week's episode, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and check back soon because we have new unique home tours publishing all the time. And if you'd like to join our team and get access to members-only content and unique perks, make sure you click on the join button below.